For people who are new to the tiers, there are rules to it. Once you're eliminated, you're not ever uneliminated. It would be wildly embarrassing for the committee to have to do that. We've never had to do it. If any of these teams were to become playoff likely, then we would. Those teams have been eliminated. The newest elimination, New York Jets. There is one team this week facing elimination. Reveal it, please. To the tiers. Facing elimination, Dallas Cowboys. And I'll be honest, I'd like to pre-eliminate them. However, the committee has a rule. You cannot be eliminated without being on the facing elimination line and losing that game. Luckily, Cowboys play the Texans this week. Texans need the game. They're going to get the game, and the Cowboys will be eliminated from tiers. Teetering on the brink. Hope that's good enough for you, KW. Bears, Colts, Dolphins. Dolphins, of these three teams right now, is the one you probably have the most hope for because they have been able to construct a credible offense when Tua's been in there. But I'm worried about Tua's ability to stay in there because he's playing with such a reckless abandon. I don't understand. The Colts, after 2 weeks of being like Joe Flacco will fix it, today announced they're going back to Anthony Richardson. That's good. For the Bears, a lot of problems. Here's the biggest of which. The whole idea behind the Bears being a playoff team was going to run up wins early because the back half of their schedule is the hardest in the league. Well, they didn't get to 7 wins early. They got to 4, and now the hardest schedule's coming, so that could go in the wrong direction. More than respectable. Seahawks, listen, they have not gotten the wins as of late, but they're in these games. The Broncos have top 5 scoring defense, top 5 yardage defense. Nix isn't killing them. And man, I feel like the Bucs have had 4 50-50 games that they lost.
Yeah.
That, whether it was the Falcons game on Thursday night earlier in the season, this weekend against San Francisco, the Chiefs game, so many, and now you do worry they're going to end up a game Chiefs short. Can't quite click. Bengals, Rams, Falcons. So for the Bengals, it's very simple. The defense just has not held up its end of the bargain. The Falcons, it feels like the games the defense plays well, like this week against New Orleans, the offense doesn't show up. And the same thing with the Rams, where you don't get both sides of the ball pulling at the same time. This past week, the Rams defense did its job. The Stafford and the offense couldn't get going. McVay's kicking these short field goals. I actually think any of these 3 teams would be scary in a first-round playoff matchup, but week to week, they haven't been as consistent as you'd like. Dangerous, but untrustworthy. Texans, Cardinals, Vikings, Niners. So all of these teams, when you have, whether it's CJ when Nico's there, Kyler when he's rolling to his right, falling backwards, throwing a quarter field moon ball, the guy's wide open, that tight end leak really works for him. The Vikings when Flores sending his blitzes, or Purdy in the offense when it's clicking and Fred Warner's making plays on defense. What's up, bro?
You've come around.
No, I'm just telling you that when they're rolling, all 3 of these teams look really good, but I don't trust them week to week. It also feels like all 4 of these teams, anybody could beat them on any given week because they haven't been consistent thus far this season. Win a playoff game. In order to validate this season, I think all 3 of these teams would need to win a playoff game. Validate's too strong. In order to make this season an unabashed success, I think at this point, we expect all 3 of these teams to be in the playoffs. But it will feel, with Washington starting 7-2, if they end up going from there to not winning the division to losing in round 1. Green Bay last year won a playoff game. The Chargers, it's all the coaching. So you had bad coaching, you got good coaching, going to be in the playoffs. Win your first career playoff game for Herbert. Green Bay, do what you did last year. And for Washington, don't have it just be a first half of the season thing, because there is that Cliff Kingsbury first half season's great, second half not so much, and it's cooling a bit already with Jaden. Final 4 ceiling. I think these are 3 really good teams. I underestimated the 2 Pennsylvania teams massively. Thought they both missed the playoffs. Right now, they're both huge favorites to make the playoffs. I do not believe Baltimore with that defense, Pittsburgh with that offense, or Philly with that coaching can make the Super Bowl, but I think any of those teams could show up in the conference championship game, which for the Pennsylvania teams would be a hell of a season. For Baltimore, it'd feel like kind of more of the same from last year. Drinking the Kool-Aid, I'm talking about myself. I love everything Dan Campbell's doing. The grit stuff I buy into, the speaking turnovers into existence I buy into, the fact that he seems to truly believe in Jared Goff, and it makes Jared Goff believe in himself so much that he says things like, I thought he played pretty well in the game. He threw 5 interceptions. Like, I'm all in. I love what the Lions are doing, and Wild.
We got to talk about this.
What? Wild.
I'm flirting with these takes.
Yeah, the Lions to the Super Bowl take.
Yeah.
That coach is sitting next to.
Yeah.
Sitting next to. We've been married for months.
Yeah, you have. And I sent it a dirty martini down, slid down at the end of the bar.
Extra dirty.
Yeah, extra dirty. Is this the year?
She's high character.
The Buffalo Bills. Is this the year? Is this the year you finally beat the Chiefs in the playoffs? Is this the year you finally win a Super Bowl in Buffalo? Get back to the Super Bowl for the first time in 30 years? Or is this more of the same where you actually do win your Super Bowl, beating the Chiefs in the regular season and lose in the playoffs? Or do you actually get, beat by the Chiefs twice this year? I don't know. And then at the top, 3 phases of perfection. Offense, defense, special teams. I don't know, 15 straight victories. Best coach, best quarterback, best defense, best special teams, best stadium, best all of it there.
Okay. Let's talk about this. So yeah, it's I made my own list. I didn't do it for all the teams in terms of all of the names that I kind of came up with. As you guys know, I do not think that the Kansas City Chiefs are the best team in the NFL. But I'll start from the bottom first. Dallas Cowboys facing elimination. I mean, at this point, they should probably honestly already be eliminated. Dak's out for the year. Their team's a mess. They have no culture. They have terrible leadership. Lame duck coach. I mean, it's an absolute mess. The Bears, the Colts, and the Dolphins. Yeah, I mean, I think they are teetering on the brink, quite frankly. Can they turn it around? I think they can. I think the Dolphins can, for sure. And the Colts are still alive, but it does feel that I'm just not seeing how the Bears are going to magically be able to go on a run and get themselves into the playoffs at this part. I have been wildly impressed with really all 3 of these teams, the Seahawks, the Broncos, and the Bucks. But I've definitely been really impressed week to week with the Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield and how they've been able to play, especially versus the Chiefs and then the 49ers for sure. But it does seem like, right, they're not winning those 50-50 games. They do have their injuries, and it's just like, again, it's a respectable season considering the circumstances, but like, what can you really see? And I would elevate the Broncos mainly because of their rookie quarterback situation, what their defense has been able to do, and having Bo Nix get better week to week to week. And I think he looked so unbelievably comfortable against the Kansas City Chiefs on the road. Like Nick just said, this is the best team, best offense, best defense, best special teams, best coaching staff. And to have Bo Nix on the road in a hostile environment, divisional game, and look not even shook for a second, that's remarkable to me. That really, really, really was impressive to me. That was honestly, that moment, I'm not saying that it was the best performance of any rookie quarterback, but it probably impressed me more than any other rookie quarterback, because I expect some of these players, whether it is Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, whoever to be, to make unbelievable throws, to be able to avoid pressure and rip off a run, to scramble around and throw the ball 30 yards down the field. I expect them. These are elite athletes, and the whole question is, how consistently can they do those things? But not all people, especially not all elite athletes, can handle that moment. And to see Bo Nix not even shook for a second, I think that was extraordinary. I really, really do. I really, really, really do. The Bengals and the Rams and the Falcons, I actually think that's pretty, makes that a lot of sense. Can't quite click. These are 3 teams that should be significantly better than how they're playing, and it is. It is like trying to snap 2 Lego pieces in together, and you're just like, you're not hearing it click. You're just like, is there something in it? Like what's going on? This team should be better. How are they not getting some of these wins that they should be getting? And I think that's actually honestly totally fair. But now this is where I made my own list, and I just made it up, man. What do you guys want from me? But to be clear, this is absolutely positively fluid, because I have a couple teams that I think are low, that I put low, only because I was trying to avoid putting too many teams in just one gigantic tier, in one group, because quite frankly, I could put like 10 teams and say, best of luck to you on Sunday, let's go. I was trying to be a little bit different, and there's a couple teams, especially who are at the bottom of this list now that I made, the Chargers and the Cardinals, who I think can absolutely really significantly go up there, especially the Cardinals with Kyler Murray, but it's just one of those things where I still want to wait to see, and that's what I have for the Cardinals and the Chargers. I say either win it all or a rough loss. Like I see both these teams either right knocking out the Chiefs, knocking out the Lions, and just devastating that team, and just having them be like, right, again, Patrick Mahomes staring off into space, and Dan Campbell just really angry that I can't believe Kyler Murray just, went off for 400 yards. Like I could see that happening. Again, I'm not predicting it, but I can legitimately see it happening. Or I can see the exact opposite, where it's just like Herbert just can't do anything. Kyler Murray throws 3 interceptions, and it's just like, oh man, that was a rough loss. It's a pretty good season. Nice to see them get out there, but like, yeah, they're just not there yet. And then I have the 49ers and the Texans. I just have wait until we get healthy, because it's like their season is so marred by injuries that it's made it a mess. It's made it a complete mess. I don't think you really have any deep understanding who these teams are, except for what we know that they've done in the past. And I am not a huge fan of constantly using the past as a frame of reference of who you are. Even if it is the exact same team with the exact same players, with the exact same coaches, you're not the actual same team. You're not the same player. I'm not the same person that I was last year. I'm certainly not going to be the same person that I am next year. It just is what it is. So even if you have a lot of the same faces and same people, it's different. So with these teams right now, they are different. They're not the exact same thing. There's a lot of obviously same faces and same people there, but with injuries and all of that, to me, it just becomes very difficult to truly evaluate who these teams are. But I do believe that they can be something special. And again, like I said, easily with this week and next week, they can skyrocket up to the top. Then I have the Commanders, Packers, Steelers, Vikings. These are 4 teams that I really believe in, and I wrote, keep doubting us. And I think it's because they don't have the recent, as I just went off about history, recent established history of what they've been able to do in the playoffs, or again, I know obviously some of these teams have had some great success in years past, but not very, very immediately recently. And honestly, you could even put the Packers in that whole wait until we get healthy category. But I just have keep doubting us because people don't really believe in the Commanders. They don't believe that Jordan Love, people have already fallen out of love with Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers, right? Nick Wright has already dropped Jordan Love pretty low on the mountain, so there's just not a lot of belief of how special Jordan Love really can be. And same thing with the Steelers, Russell Wilson. It's like, because even Nick here said, I don't trust the Steelers offense right now. I don't trust their offense. And it's like, well, their offense with Russ has been significantly better and dynamic, and they're averaging 30 plus points per game. So that offense is legit. The defense is legit. When you have a legit offense and you have a legit defense, you have a legit team. That's typically how it works. And I actually just made a video about this about an hour or so ago. Everyone's off the Vikings train now. They're 7-2 team, and everyone just thinks that they're a disaster, that they're bad, that Sam Darnold's a mess, and this, that. I just do not believe that. So again, keep doubting us. Keep doing it. Then I have the Ravens, Bills, Eagles, and Chiefs. And I wrote invited to the party because we own the building. These are the teams that for the last, 3, 4, however many years are consistently considered great. Obviously, we know the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl, the Ravens and the Bills constantly in the mix, as well as the Eagles going to the Super Bowl, winning a Super Bowl a few years before that. So these are the teams that every single year, it's always like, we know that these are going to be top teams. These teams are going to be competing for a playoff spot, competing for a division, winning a division, competing, whatever. I'm using those words interchangeable right now, getting to an AFC, NFC championship game, whatever it may be. The Ravens, and again, don't get me wrong, the Ravens, Bills, and the Eagles have underperformed, obviously minus the Chiefs, but still obviously continued great. So that's why I say they're invited to the party, because they own the building. Like, they have carried playoff narratives for years and years and years now. And I do put the Chiefs in there just because of their level of play right now. I'm sorry, I am not wildly impressed by their level of play. I'm impressed that they've been able to be undefeated, but I do not see them as 3 phases of perfection. I just do not. But obviously, they are a top team, and obviously well coached, great players, and etc., etc. And then I have the Lions at the top. I do. I'm not afraid to do it. I say just try and stop me is my category. They are absolute beasts. I mean, they to me right now seem to be the most resilient team. And I think technically, and this is why I understand giving a team like the Kansas City Chiefs an edge. Technically, the biggest weakness that the Lions don't have, or the biggest weakness that the Lions do have, is Dan Campbell, in the sense, not that he's a bad coach, not anything to do with that, but he has not, like Andy Reid, coached in multiple Super Bowls, multiple conference championship games, right? He knows, a coach like Andy Reid deeply understands the moment, deeply knows how to prepare. He's done it so many times that gives the edge. Dan Campbell and the coaching staff for the Lions, they don't have that experience yet. They just don't. And don't get me wrong, you got to get it one way or another, right? It has to happen the first. I mean, if it's ever going to happen, it's got to happen at least for the first time once. So it's not to say that they can't do it, but you just can't have that unconditional confidence. If you do, honestly, it's that you got to really check your bias then, because it's not actually based off of reality. The hope is that the experience that they had last year is enough to really propel them and give them enough experience to get over that hump to not only make the Super Bowl, but then win the Super Bowl. Where again, you look at a coach like Andy Reid, Spags, and then to the next level, Mahomes, Kelsey. They know exactly. They know what to eat. They know how long to lay in bed and cuddle with their children and their wife, whatever, the day before game. They just know how to do everything. They've done it so many times. They know how tight to tie their shoelaces. They just know exactly what to expect. They know exactly the questions that they're going to be asked Super Bowl week, because they've done it so many times, again and again and again. So it's like that level of experience really matters when the margin of error can be so tiny. So that is what the one thing that I see the Lions technically lacking, unfortunately. But again, at one point it was Patrick Mahomes' first Super Bowl, Mahomes' first win, Andy Reid's first win. So, it doesn't mean that you're automatically out for it, which is why I still have the Lions at the top. The one last thing that I also wanted to argue, though, is because he said Final Four ceiling. He said the Steelers and the Eagles would be happy if they made it to a conference championship game. I think the Steelers would, and I know the Ravens would not. They would be upset about that, but so would the Eagles. The Eagles aren't just happy about losing an NFC championship game. Like, that's delusional. That's not even remotely accurate at all. The floor for the Eagles is reaching the NFC championship game. And better believe that if they reach the NFC Championship game and lose, Nick Sirianni is going to be fired. There's not a doubt in my mind, right? Like, this is absolutely, they see this roster as elite, a top roster. The expectations are to, without a doubt, get to a Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl. I think the only way there would even be any type of justification to losing a Super Bowl would be losing to the Kansas City Chiefs, because it is indeed the dynasty of the Chiefs. And I think people would understand, hey, okay, you lost 2 years to the dynasty, to the Chiefs. It's, you can't expect yourself to just automatically easily beat a team like that. But I think if the Eagles lost to the Lions, that would make them feel like they're going backwards. If they get to the Super Bowl, maybe you can make the argument if they lose to the Ravens, because it is Lamar Jackson and he obviously dominates the NFC, you can maybe make that argument. But if they lost to, say, the Bills, or I'm trying to look at these teams right now, the Texans, the Steelers, I think people would see that as a regression. I really think the only way that you could lose to a team in the playoffs and not feel completely awful about it or feel that you're going backwards would be the Kansas City Chiefs, because obviously of who the Chiefs have been. But let's see what Brew and Mangini have to say, and Wilds, and then I'll wrap it up there.
There it is. committee's
Pretty
tiers.
good. I liked it.
You did?
Yeah.
I didn't really
What'd
like
you
it that
disagree with, Coach? I didn't have your league MVP CJ Stroud high enough?
Kind
Maybe?
of like his search for tweets. Is
No, I
thinly put together.
Nope,
Not-
you
not
guys
very-
asked for it, and I
not
found it
very
within
well
minutes. Go ahead.
documented. Well, this is the deal with where he puts the Bills. And the Bills are all about put them above the Lions because if they beat Kansas City, then it can be like, oh, well, they were the second best team. Of course, they beat Kansas
Bingo.
City. You know, and then if
Absolutely.
Kansas City wins, like, oh, they beat the second best team. You know, that's the reason that they're where they are. But Detroit should be higher than the Bills. And then let's just take a look at the strength of schedule. Let's take a look at their strength of schedule and their success rate. I don't know if we have that available or not. There we go. Strength of wins,
is.
Bills 355, Lions 514. Strength of schedule, Lions way ahead of the Bills there as well. And then if we just look what's happened here during the 7-game win streak, okay, first in points per game, point per game differential, takeaways, all that's great. But let's look at some things that we're not going to look at it, but this 7-game win streak is the best since 1995, 29 years. 8-1 record, best since 1954. I think that's 70 years. You can do the math. And they're also on a 5-game road streak. So everything that they've done is better than the Bills, but yet because the Bills are playing the Chiefs, we got to put them above. So in case
But
they
you
beat
like
the Chiefs.
that Lions game? You're like this.
Yeah,
team is
I mean, that's
Know what I like about the Lions
Hold
game is with as bad as it was, they found a way to win.
Yeah.
Kind of like blocking a field goal at the end of the game. You got to give them respect for it.
Coach. So here's the thing. As you should know, and
This is a rich tapestry, remember
as you
that.
very well know, there's not only are there no biases on the tiers, we have a full committee to ensure that that wouldn't happen.
It balances
And the
it out.
idea that I need to artificially inflate the Bills
Oh, you do?
when this 30 million people are going to watch the game this weekend, and it is being billed as one of, it just is, as far as teams with their this deep into the season, this few of losses. It's the first time that's happened in 6 years since actually the 9-1 Chiefs played the 9-1 Rams on Monday Night Football in that 54-51 game. So that's, I mean, that's
Well,
nonsense.
I guess
now,
watching the game makes the team, that's why they're better than Detroit.
no, listen.
People
here's,
are watching the game.
here's the thing.
Okay.
You, Coach did something this year that he's never done before.
What?
Made preseason picks. And he
Right.
told us, he was like, all my time doing TV, I've never had to do that. And now he's really feeling the repercussions of it. He didn't want to give up on the.
That's
please,
horrible.
Hold on,
That's
hold on.
third.
No, it's not about the Lions. It's about your skepticism of Buffalo. Because Buffalo checks every box that you would like. They had faith in their coach. They have a great quarterback, a force multiplier. They got rid of kind of the somewhat distraction diva receiver and like, no, that's why we pay the quarterback all this. All these things. But you didn't believe in the Bills before the year, so you are anchored to that take. Despite the fact the Bills this past week looked dominant, and that brings me to the Lions, which is my question. Did you think the Lions looked good this week, or were you concerned, even though it was great they pulled out the win, a little concerned that Jared Goff that we saw is going to be the Jared Goff we see at the end of their season?
I was absolutely shocked that they were able to win the game throwing 5 interceptions.
Yes.
Which then reinforced the fact that this team must be really good.
It is.
To be able to overcome 5 interceptions and still find a way
So
to
I
win.
agree with that entirely, which is why I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. But the Goff thing terrifies you. What'd
Jared
you say?
Goff's career.
No, don't do that.
Did you say
Don't do
7?
no. He's being a smartass. I appreciate that. Wild.
Aaron Rodgers.
It's the second time that's happened in Goff's career. But Brew, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. All right, well, Nick, you're not going to like it. I'm doubling down on what Coach said.
Because these guys were just wrong
Look at
about
the
Bills and
the
won't
bar.
admit it.
Here's the bar.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the Bills. SMH, for those of you who don't know, shaking my head.
Gianna, do you fact check that?
Yeah.
Bias is back, and I have complimented you for the last month. I think that you have removed the bias from the tiers, from Mahomes Mountains for the most part. Kind of. Here's a little,
I'm
but
just
but
a
for the
well-known
most part,
Bills fan.
That's
That's what's
now
happening.
you
You seen
are,
the Buffalo
and that's
News?
what's baffling.
No, I've
like
just
this
been
year,
right
all
about
of a sudden you're the biggest. No, you haven't.
What,
How
how?
fast-
They haven't done a thing to warrant being ahead of Detroit and Baltimore, and I put Philly ahead of them. I'll put them on the same tier as the Steelers. The Bills haven't done. They're 1-2 against teams with winning records. The one game they won was Arizona when Arizona opening weekend didn't know who it was.
Yeah, also
and they
pass
took them
interference, by the
all
way.
they could, right, everything they had to beat Arizona at home. When they stepped up in class, what's happened? Baltimore just beat the living daylights
was
out
rough.
of them.
Yeah.
That was terrible.
And
And,
the Houston
yet they're
game was the
below.
last second.
Houston hasn't even played well, and Houston beat them. Houston, by the way, 0-3 against other winning teams. You know, they can beat up on Buffalo. Buffalo's beating up on the tomato can. I wish I had a tomato can with me, because that's all they're doing, Nick. Nothing else. Their defense is middling, 18th in the league in total defense. This is what Buffalo has: a great, dynamic quarterback. That's
And
it.
8 wins.
That's
and
8
8
wins against a bunch of chumps.
Okay. I mean,
Seriously, I told you they beat like one other than Arizona. I think 2 4-win teams. Indianapolis and Seattle are like their best wins outside of Arizona.
Yeah.
I mean, what are we talking
listen,
about?
I
Every
get it.
time they
If you
move
ta-
up in
if
weight,
you
we're
take out-
ready.
if
We're
you-
ready.
If you
Do
take
we
out the
wanna
wins
take up
against
the
winning
champ?
teams, they don't have wins against winning teams. I get it. That's odd.
They got
that
one
happens.
win against winning
and
teams.
and you said if you take out that win against Arizona, their next
They're
best win is
7-2.
against 4-win teams. Like, I get
4
it.
and 6.
Listen,
That's impressive. I mean, there's why are they ahead of Baltimore?
because I think they're better than Baltimore.
Even
'Cause
though
they don't-
Baltimore beat them by
Yes.
what, 25?
I understand that
was it?
5 weeks ago Baltimore crushed them. I get
Oh,
that
so it's
entirely.
irrelevant because it was 5 weeks ago. Okay.
I think since then the Bills made a major addition in adding Amari Cooper.
He's
They
not
didn't
even
have him there.
playing.
Well, he's not playing this week, I understand, but
Or last
he
week
has
or the week
played
before.
for the team. I don't think Buffalo has a glaring weakness. Baltimore does. Baltimore has a bottom 5 pass defense, bottom 3 pass defense. I don't think I think
The
that
glaring
in
weakness is
I
that
think
they're
that in
mediocre
the
in a
biggest
lot of-
games, I would, as much as I like the Lions, Jared Goff concerns me. And what has happened, I believe, is folks before the year prematurely gave up on Buffalo and now are unwilling to say, oh, maybe they are actually still pretty damn good. I have
They are pretty good.
I have been the bane of Bills fans' existence.
I was going to say, that's why I was holding my head.
Why?
Because I think it's confusing for the audience until I realize.
It's
They're playing the Chiefs.
He wants to live
got
well
doggy.
because
It
they
is,
win the
it is
Chiefs.
where they have been.
He's
Makes
been
him
here
look
the
better.
whole time.
I've been there the whole time.
He's not. Now he's
and-
legit mad.
Yeah, because it's patently absurd that I'm trying to artificially inflate Buffalo because I need some extra ammo for the 2-time defending champions to defend them in one way or another. It's ridiculous. What is true is this. It shouldn't be confusing for the audience. What is Nick's Bills take every year? The correct one. That's what it is. When Brew's putting them in the Super Bowl, Nick has the correct one. When Coach has them missing the playoffs, Nick has the correct one. So that's the Nick's Bills take is just the right one.
It
not
can't be
confusing.
correct when you got a team that beat them by 25 below them.
Okay,
It's
Okay. They're just they just keep going in circles now. But yeah, no, I gave all my opinion in the middle of the clip, rather than at the back end. Curious what you guys think. Do you think that the Bills should be lower than the Lions? Anything else with the rankings? Do you think that the Kansas City Chiefs are indeed the best team in the NFL? Do you think that the Ravens should be above the Bills because of that? And that is the one thing where, again, that's why, like, it is so funny, especially Nick, like, picking and choosing when he wants to use head-to-head matchups as an indicator of who's better, right? Like, that's what's always funny to me, because he's obviously not using it for the Ravens and the Bills, and I don't mind him not using it, but you just can't pick and choose when you want to use it versus when you don't. You know the drill. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Nick's tiers? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.